I struggle through the front door with my hospital bag slung over one shoulder, the weight of a 14-hour shift still clinging to my scrubs. The Christmas lights I'd carefully strung across our porch last weekend blink their cheerful pattern, a stark contrast to the unexpected silence inside. "Mara?" I call out, dropping my keys in the ceramic dish by the door. No answer. Just the soft hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the grandfather clock my father gave me when I graduated medical school. I check my watch 11:48 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Mara should be at my parents' house, probably helping Grandma Lorraine arrange presents under the tree for tomorrow's celebration. I move through our darkened living room, flipping on lamps as I go. That's when I see her. My 16-year-old daughter lies curled on the couch, still wearing her holiday sweater and winter coat. Her face is puffy, eyelids swollen. The overnight bag I helped her pack this morning sits untouched by the door, a silent testament to plans gone wrong. "Mara?" I whisper, kneeling beside the couch. My hand trembles slightly as I brush dark hair from her forehead. "Honey, what are you doing at home?" Her eyes flutter open, recognition slowly dawning. She blinks twice, then her face crumples. "Mom," she says, her voice raw, "I didn't hear you come in." "What happened? Why aren't you at Grandma and Grandpa's?" She sits up slowly, hugging herself. "Grandma said there was no room at the table for me." The words hang between us, impossible to process. I sink onto the couch beside her. "What do you mean, no room?" Mara pulls at a loose thread on her sweater. "I showed up with those cinnamon cookies we made. The ones Grandpa likes?" Her voice breaks. "There were people everywhere, 26 guests, Mom, I counted." I feel the first flicker of heat beneath my ribs. Grandma took the cookies and said they'd already arranged the seating, said there wasn't space for an extra chair. Mara swallows hard. Nobody offered to rearrange or share food or anything, not even Uncle Dylan. The heat spreads upward through my chest. "Did they drive you home?" I ask, knowing the answer from the way she won't meet my eyes. Mara shakes her head. "I called an Uber." "And what did you eat for dinner?" "I made toast with peanut butter. And half an apple." My hands begin to shake, not from exhaustion now, but something deeper. I stand abruptly. "I'm making you hot chocolate. Then we'll talk about this properly." In the kitchen, I grip the counter edge so hard my knuckles turn white. A memory surfaces, myself at 10, sitting alone at the kids' table while my brother Dylan, 14, and suddenly, mature enough, sat with the adults. Even then, I wasn't welcome. I fill the kettle, set it on the stove with mechanical precision, reach for mugs, measure cocoa powder and sugar. My movements are controlled, contained, while inside me something dangerous builds. "Did Uncle Dylan see what happened?" I ask when I return, setting a steaming mug in front of Mara. She nods, cradling the mug in both hands. "He was standing right there when Grandma told me. He just looked away, then went back to the dining room." My gaze falls on her overnight bag, still packed with carefully wrapped presents for her cousins. Tyler's robotics kit, Zachary's baseball cards, gifts we'd spent weeks selecting together. "I'm so sorry," Mara whispers, misreading my silence. "I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to bother you at work." I sit beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You have nothing to be sorry for, nothing." After Mara finally falls back asleep, I sit alone at our kitchen table. The Christmas lights reflect in my coffee cup, casting colored shadows across the wall. I think about the surgeries I rescheduled to work this shift so other doctors could be with their families. I think about the mortgage payments I've made on my parents' house for 9 years. I think about how my daughter spent Christmas Eve alone with peanut butter toast while my brother's sons enjoyed a feast. My hand reaches for my phone, then stops. "No, not this time. This time will be different," I whisper to the empty kitchen. My reflection in the window stares back, eyes hard as flint. This wasn't just about Christmas dinner. This was about 16 years of slights and dismissals. This was about Mara's tears and my endless compromises. They had made their choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. The kitchen clock ticks past 2 in the morning as I stare at the family photo on the refrigerator. My mother beams beside Dylan, her arm wrapped firmly around his shoulders. My father stands on Dylan's other side, I hover at the edge, partially cropped out a fitting metaphor for my entire childhood. A memory surfaces, sharp and clear as surgical steel. I'm 7 years old, kneeling in our backyard, magnifying glass in hand. A dead robin lies before me, its wings spread in permanent flight. I carefully part the feathers, curious about the structures beneath. Emma! My mother's voice shatters my concentration. What in heaven's name are you doing? Looking at its wings, I answer, not understanding her horror. I want to see how they connect. She yanks me up by the arm, dragging me toward the house. Normal little girls don't cut up dead animals. That's weird, Emma, very weird. That night at dinner, she tells the story to my father and Dylan. My 10-year-old brother snickers, pointing his fork at me. Dr. Know It. All strikes again. My parents laugh. The nickname sticks for years. I blink away the memory and open the cabinet above the coffee maker. My hand reaches past mugs to a small wooden box tucked in the back corner. Inside lies a decade of financial records, meticulous documentation of every penny I've given my family. The first document sits on top. Mortgage papers from 2016. My signature on the dotted line for $148,000. The house I bought for my parents when their retirement savings proved insufficient. 9 years of $930 monthly payments, property taxes, and homeowners insurance. Below that, a folder bulges with medical receipts. The specialized hearing aids for my father that Medicare wouldn't cover. The experimental medication for my mother's arthritis. The twice-weekly physical therapy sessions. All given without expectation of repayment. All accepted without gratitude. I spread the papers across the kitchen table, creating a map of one-way generosity. My finger traces the dates, amounts, signatures, the evidence of a lifetime spent trying to earn a place at their table. Another memory rises unbidden. My high school graduation. Principal Harmon announced my full-ride scholarship to Ohio State University, the first in our school to receive it that year. I stand on stage, searching the audience for my family's proud faces. My mother leans toward my father, checking her watch. They'd need to leave immediately after the ceremony. Dylan had a baseball game across town. More important than my moment of triumph. I gather the receipts and return them to the box. My hand pauses over a note from 3 weeks ago, written in my neat, controlled handwriting. Nicole requested $1,350 for Tyler's robotics camp. The scene unfolds in my mind with perfect clarity. Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' house. The pumpkin pie barely served when Nicole corners me in the kitchen, Dylan hovering at her shoulder. We really need to talk about Tyler's robotics camp, she says, voice pitched low but insistent. It's $1,350, but it could really set him up for a scholarship. I rinse cranberry sauce from a serving spoon, buying seconds to compose my response. I'm sorry, Nicole. I'm already stretched thin with Mara's college fund. Her smile vanishes. It's just that you have so much more than we do, with the dealership struggling. The dealership is struggling because Dylan bought that boat, I say, the words escaping before I can filter them. Nicole's face hardens. Family helps family, Emma. I notice my mother in the doorway, her expression shifting subtly. A warning sign I choose to ignore. I agree, I reply, drying my hands. That's why I've been paying my parents' mortgage for 9 years. Dylan and my mother exchange a glance, brief but unmistakable. The final pieces click into place as I return to the present, the unanswered phone calls in the weeks before Christmas. The last-minute text from my mother, "We're so looking forward to having Mara tomorrow." I pull my phone from my pocket and scroll through today's messages. 3 from my mother, 1 from Dylan. Generic Merry Christmas texts. No mention of turning Mara away. No apology. No acknowledgement. This wasn't about space at the table. This was punishment for not funding Tyler's camp. I close the box of financial records and return it to its hiding place. The grandfather clock in the living room chimes 3 times. Through the kitchen window, I can see the neighbor's Christmas lights blinking in rhythm with my racing thoughts. My daughter sleeps upstairs, her Christmas dreams shattered by the people who should love her most. The people I've supported, defended, and financed for decades. No more, I whisper to the empty kitchen. My reflection in the window stares back, eyes clear, jaw set. For the first time in my life, I see myself not as the family disappointment but as something far more dangerous to them. A woman with nothing left to lose. Christmas morning light filters through the frosted windows, casting pale rectangles across our living room floor. Mara sits cross-legged by our modest tree, turning a small package over in her hands. The brave smile she offers doesn't reach her eyes, still puffy from last night's tears. "Open it," I say, settling beside her with a coffee mug in hand. She peels back the wrapping paper with careful precision, revealing the vintage stethoscope I found at an antique medical supply store. Sterling silver, circa 1940, with her initials now engraved on the bell. "Mom," she whispers, running her finger along the cool metal. "It's perfect." My phone buzzes on the coffee table. A text from my mother. "Merry Christmas. Hope your shift wasn't too exhausting. Love to Mara." Not a word about turning my daughter away. Not a hint of apology or acknowledgement. Just holiday pleasantries as if nothing happened. I set the phone face down without responding. "Who was that?" Mara asks, looping the stethoscope around her neck. "No one important." I reach for another gift to hand her. "Your turn again." We spent the morning in quiet celebration, just the two of us. I watch her unwrap each present with that same determined cheerfulness, and something hardens inside me with every forced smile. The doorbell rings just after noon. Sarah Winters stands on my porch holding a tin of cookies, her silver-streaked hair tucked under a knit cap. My colleague from anesthesiology, 20 years my senior and the closest thing to a mentor I've ever had. "Thought you two might need some Christmas cheer," she says, stepping inside. "Hospital kitchens always overdo it on the sweets." I take the tin, throat suddenly tight. "Thanks for coming by." Sarah shrugs off her coat, eyeing me with the same clinical assessment she gives patients. "What happened? You look like you've been punched in the soul." The story spills out of me while Mara disappears upstairs. Sarah's expression darkens with each detail. "Let me get this straight," she interrupts, holding up one hand. "Your parents turned away your 16-year-old daughter on Christmas Eve, after you've been paying their mortgage for 9 years? I nod, focusing on a point just past her shoulder. "That's not family, Emma, that's manipulation." She leans forward, steel in her voice. "And your brother just stood there?" "Looked away, went back to his dinner." Sarah's mouth forms a thin line. "You know what my mother would have done if anyone tried to turn away my niece? She'd have dragged another table in from the garage, scrounged up a folding chair, and made everyone scoot over." She sets her mug down with a sharp click. "That's family." The words settle over me like a blanket, both comforting and suffocating in their truth. "What will you do?" she asks. Before I can answer, there's a knock at the front door. Frank Howell from next door stands on the porch, snow dusting his broad shoulders. At 72, he still shovels his own walkway and brings in our trash cans when we work late. "Got too many Christmas tamales," he announces, holding up a foil-wrapped package. "Marjorie went overboard again this year." His eyes flick past me to Mara descending the stairs. "There's my favorite science whiz. Thought you'd be at your grandparents'." Mara's smile falters. Change of plans. Frank's gaze shifts between us, comprehension dawning. He's heard enough of my phone conversations over shared fences to fill in the blanks. "Well," he says, pushing the tamales into my hands, "their loss is our gain. Say, Mara, I got that old telescope set up in the backyard. Venus is mighty fine tonight if you want to take a look later." The genuine smile that breaks across my daughter's face pierces straight through me. "I'd like that," she says. After Frank leaves, I find Mara in the kitchen unwrapping the tamales. "We should go to the hospital," I say suddenly. She looks up, confused. "Are you on call?" "No. But the pediatric ward always does a little something for the kids who can't go home. There's usually leftover cake." An hour later, we stood in the brightly decorated children's ward. My colleagues swarm Mara, pressing cookies into her hands, asking about her college applications. Nurses who've known her since she was a toddler visiting me at work pull her into hugs. Dr. Patel's wife has brought their new baby, and soon Mara is cradling the infant, her face softening as she whispers to the sleeping child. The surgical residents drag her into their card game, teaching her their special version of poker played with surgical instruments instead of chips. Later, as we drive home through streets lined with Christmas lights, Mara breaks our comfortable silence. This feels more like family than they ever did. I grip the steering wheel tighter, unable to disagree. The next morning, the 26th of December, I'm reading on the porch when a familiar silver Lincoln pulls into our driveway. My parents step out, my mother clutching a shopping bag with tissue paper sprouting from the top. "There you are," she calls, as if we've been hiding. "Where were you two yesterday? We had your presents all ready." I stand slowly, marking my place in my book. "You know exactly where we weren't, Mom." She waves a dismissive hand. "Oh, that was just a misunderstanding. There was such confusion with all the guests." My father hangs back, examining his shoes. 26 guests, I say, but no room for your only granddaughter." "Well, we're here now." She pushes past me into the house, calling for Mara. "I've got something special for you, sweetheart." I follow, watching her set the bag on our coffee table like an offering. "She's not here," I lie, knowing Mara is upstairs with headphones on. "She's with friends." Disappointment flickers across my mother's face, quickly replaced with a tight smile. "We'll catch her next time. How was your Christmas?" The casual question, the practiced ignorance, it all washes over me like acid. My phone rings. Dylan's name flashes on the screen. "Excuse me," I say, stepping into the kitchen. "I need to take this." "Emma," my brother says without preamble, "I need a favor. We found this vacation property up in Michigan, but we're short on the down payment. Just $15,000. I can pay you back by summer." The laugh that escapes me holds no humor. "You're calling to ask for money? Today?" "What's wrong with today?" I stare out the window at my father pacing beside their car, checking his watch. "You watched your niece get turned away from Christmas dinner." A beat of silence. "That was Mom's call, not mine." "And you said nothing." "Look, this isn't about Mara. This is about family." I finish for him. "That's exactly what it's about." I end the call and stand motionless in my kitchen. Through the doorway, I can see my mother straightening the magazines on my coffee table, rearranging my home while waiting for an answer I'll never give. The realization crashes over me like a wave. They see me as nothing but a financial resource, a checkbook with a pulse. I walk to my home office and open the filing cabinet. The deed to my parents' house sits in a manila folder, along with 9 years of mortgage statements, property tax receipts, and utility bills. Nearly $200,000 spent ensuring their comfort while they can't spare a chair at their table for my child. My fingers trace the embossed seal on the deed, my name as owner, their names nowhere to be found. The decision crystallizes, sharp and clear as a surgical incision. I pick up my phone and scroll to Jessica Williams, attorney, friend. "Jess," I say when she answers, "I need your help with an eviction." 4 months later, I park across the street from my parents' house, the one I've paid for since 2016. The eviction notice sits on the passenger seat, its formal language and letterhead surprisingly heavy for mere paper. I've read it so many times I've memorized every word. Jessica helped me draft it yesterday, her legal expertise turning my raw pain into actionable consequences. "You're sure about this?" she had asked. I remembered Mara's face on Christmas Eve, more sure than I've ever been. Now I sit watching the house where I grew up, where my daughter was turned away with homemade cookies still warm in her hands. The curtains my mother hung last spring flutter in the April breeze. The lawn I've paid someone to maintain for 9 years is perfectly trimmed. The mailbox stands slightly crooked, I keep meaning to fix it. Not my problem anymore. I take 3 deep breaths, just like I tell surgical residents before their first solo procedure. Then I walk up the path to the front door, notice holds firm in my hand. Mom opens the door before I knock. "Emma, what a surprise." Her voice carries its usual blend of criticism and expectation. "You should have called first. The place is a mess." "The place is immaculate. It always is." "We need to talk," I say, stepping past her into the foyer. Dad sits in his recliner, watching a golf tournament. He glances up, then back at the screen. "Dylan said you weren't returning his calls." "I'm not." Something in my tone makes him look at me fully. What's going on? This. I place the notice on the coffee table. I'm giving you 60 days to vacate the property. The silence that follows feels like the moment in surgery when you make the first incision, that brief, suspended second before blood appears. Mom snatches up the paper, her reading glasses dangling from a chain around her neck. What is this nonsense? It's an eviction notice. The house is being listed for sale next week. Dad stands, remote still clutched in his hand. You can't do this. This is our home. It's my home. My name is on the deed, the mortgage, the insurance, and the property tax statements. I've paid for it for 9 years. Mom's face contorts, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? The laugh that escapes me sounds foreign to my own ears. Everything you've done for me? Like turning my daughter away on Christmas Eve? That was a misunderstanding. 26 guests, Mom. You had room for 26 people, but not for Mara. Dad steps forward. Now, Emma, you're being dramatic. My 16-year-old daughter ate peanut butter toast alone on Christmas Eve. She called an Uber because no one would drive her home. Mom crumples the notice in her fist. If this is about Tyler's robotics camp, you're being ridiculous. Family helps family. Exactly. Family helps family. Where was that principle when Mara showed up at your door? An hour later, the front door opens and Dylan walks in without knocking. His timing has always been impeccable. What's going on? He looks between us, reading the room with the same skill he used to manipulate our parents throughout childhood. Mom called me. Your sister has lost her mind, Mom says, thrusting the crumpled notice at him. She's trying to throw us out of our home. Dylan scans the paper, his face darkening. You can't do this. I already have. He steps closer, using his height to tower over me, a tactic that worked when we were kids. You think you can just cut us off? After everything they've done for you? I don't back away. You watched her get turned away at Christmas. You stood there and said nothing while your niece was humiliated. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. My phone rings. Jessica, right on cue. I answer, putting it on speaker. Dr. Langford, I'm following up about the eviction notice. Have you delivered it to the occupants? Yes, I'm with them now. Excellent. I should inform them that as the legal property owner, you have the right to sell the house. The 60-day notice is a courtesy, not a legal requirement in this case. Mom's face blanches. Dad sinks back into his recliner. If they need legal representation to understand their options, I'd be happy to refer them to someone, Jessica continues. Otherwise, the timeline stands as outlined in the notice. Dylan grabs my arm. You can't do this to them. Where are they supposed to go? I remove his hand. They can move in with you, since family helps family. You know Nicole and I don't have the space. Find the space, I say, echoing the words that broke my daughter's heart. Or they can use the $240,000 from their retirement account they've been saving for emergencies while I paid their mortgage. Mom tears the notice in half. If you want forgiveness for this tantrum, you'll pay for Tyler's camp. All $1,350 of it. I look at her perhaps for the first time. The woman who raised me to believe I was never quite good enough, never quite as special as my brother, never quite deserving of the same love. No. I say, the words simple and clean. I'm done. I walk toward the door, their voices rising behind me in a familiar chorus of guilt and manipulation. But with each step, the weight on my shoulders lightens. I don't look back. 3 days after the house listing went live, Emma's phone vibrated itself across her kitchen counter at 5:17 a.m. Her mother's name flashed on the screen, the 7th call since midnight. Emma silenced it without a second glance and continued stirring her coffee, the metal spoon clinking against ceramic in the pre-dawn quiet. The house had sold in 6 days. 6 days to end 9 years of financial servitude. The realtor had called yesterday with the news. $240,000, all cash offer, 30-day close. Emma's phone lit up again. A text this time. You're killing your father. His blood pressure is through the roof. Is that what you want? The kitchen timer dinged. Emma pulled Mara's lunch from the refrigerator, turkey sandwich on whole wheat, apple slices, and the homemade granola bars they'd baked together on Sunday. She placed it in the insulated bag beside Mara's calculus textbook. Her phone buzzed again. "Answer your phone, Emma. We need to talk about this like adults." Adults. The word hung in the air like cigarette smoke. Adults didn't turn away a 16-year-old girl on Christmas Eve. Adults didn't watch their niece call an Uber and say nothing. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Emma saw Nancy Winters from her mother's church group, clutching a casserole dish and wearing an expression of practiced concern. Emma stepped away from the door without opening it. "Who is it?" Mara appeared in the hallway, school backpack slung over one shoulder. "One of Grandma's flying monkeys," Emma said. A smile flickered across Mara's face, the first genuine one in weeks. "She's sending the whole congregation after you, huh?" "Apparently." They waited in silence until Nancy's footsteps retreated down the porch steps. The casserole mission had failed. "You don't have to do this, you know," Mara said, her voice small. "I know they're still your parents." Emma studied her daughter's face, the slight downturn at the corners of her mouth, the furrow between her eyebrows that shouldn't exist on a 16-year-old. "They stopped being my parents the moment they hurt you," Emma said, straightening Mara's collar. "Now finish your breakfast. I'll drive you to school today." Later that day, the hospital cafeteria hummed with lunchtime conversation when Emma's colleague Sarah slid into the seat across from her. "Your brother's in the lobby," Sarah said without preamble. Emma set down her fork. "What does he want?" "Wouldn't say. Security's keeping an eye on him after that scene last week." Emma nodded, remembering how Dylan had cornered her outside the surgical wing, his face red as he demanded she fix this mess before their parents lost their home. "I'll handle it," Emma said, gathering her half-eaten salad. "Want me to come with you?" "No, but thank you." Dylan paced near the information desk, his expensive leather shoes squeaking against the polished floor. His hair was uncombed, his normally pressed shirt wrinkled. He looked up when Emma approached. "They're moving out tomorrow," he said. Emma waited. "Nicole's mother is letting them use her condo until they find something, but it's only for 3 weeks. Dylan ran a hand through his hair. "They need help with the security deposit for an apartment." "No." The single word hung between them. "They're your parents too, Emma." His voice cracked with frustration. "You can't just." "I can. I am." "This is about Christmas? Still? For God's sake, Emma, it was a miscommunication." Emma studied her brother's face, the same eyes as their father, the same downturned mouth as their mother, a perfect genetic blend of the people who had wounded her daughter. "A miscommunication," she repeated, her voice dangerously soft. 26 guests at the table. An empty chair would have taken up, 2 feet of space. "But there was no room for my daughter." "Mom didn't mean." "You watched her get turned away at Christmas." Emma stepped closer. "That was your choice. This is mine." Dylan's face flushed. "I'll contest the house sale. There are legal questions about." "My lawyer welcomes the challenge. In fact, she suggested we might counter with a suit for the 9 years of mortgage payments I made while they lived there rent-free." Something in Dylan's expression shifted, the confident mask slipping to reveal panic underneath. "You've always been so damned superior," he hissed. "Perfect Emma with her doctor's coat and her big brain. You think you're better than all of us." Emma checked her watch. "I have surgery in 20 minutes. This isn't over." "Actually, it is." Emma turned toward the elevator. "Tell Mom I got her voicemails, all 37 of them." The next morning, Emma found Mara at the kitchen table, staring at her phone. "Everything okay?" Emma asked, setting a mug of tea beside her daughter. Mara handed over the phone. On the screen was a text from her cousin Tyler. "Aunt Nicole came to my school yesterday looking for you. Said she needed to check you were okay." Emma's hands tightened around the phone. "She doesn't have permission to contact you at school," Emma said, her voice controlled despite the fury building in her chest. "I'll call the principal." "Already did," Mara said quietly. They escorted her out. Emma sat heavily in the chair beside her daughter. "I'm sorry you're caught in this." "I'm not caught in anything," Mara said, straightening her shoulders. "I'm right where I want to be." Emma studied her daughter's face, the quiet determination in her eyes, the set of her jaw. For years, Emma had thought she was protecting Mara from her family's toxicity. Now she wondered if Mara had been waiting all along for Emma to protect herself. The phone in Emma's hand buzzed with an incoming call. Dylan again. Emma silenced it without a second thought. In 2 years, they will be exactly on the ground they belong to. Emma and Mara sat on Adirondack chairs on their front porch, watching the April sunset paint the sky in watercolor strokes of pink and gold. 2 years had transformed them both. Emma's shoulders no longer hunched with invisible weight. Mara had grown taller, her movements more confident as she gestured, describing her environmental management professor's latest field project. "We're mapping urban heat islands across Cincinnati," Mara said, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "Professor Wallace says our data might influence the city's tree planting initiative." Emma smiled, watching her daughter's eyes light up. "College suits you." "Better than high school ever did." Mara stretched her legs, feet propped on the porch railing. "Turns out it's easier to focus when you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop." Emma nodded, understanding the unspoken reference to those tension-filled family gatherings. Her gaze drifted to Mara's used Prius in the driveway, purchased with proceeds from the house sale. The teal-colored compact car with its "Save the Bees" bumper sticker represented everything Emma had fought for: Mara's freedom to choose her own path. "Beth invited us for Memorial Day weekend," Emma said, "her cottage on Lake Erie." "The one with the rickety dock where Frank caught that huge walleye last summer?" Emma laughed. "The very same. Sarah and Miguel are coming too." The mention of their chosen family sparked a comfortable silence between them. Emma thought back to their first Christmas after the break, how they'd invited her colleague Sarah, neighbor Frank, and hospital receptionist Beth for an impromptu dinner. The genuine warmth in that gathering had crystallized everything Emma knew but couldn't articulate before. Family was built on actions, not blood. "Chief of anesthesiology," Mara mused, breaking the silence. "Still can't believe they gave Grandma and Uncle Dylan visitor passes to your promotion ceremony." "Hospital policy, open to all family members," Emma shrugged. "They didn't stay long." "Mom, they left before your speech." Mara's voice held no bitterness, just observation. "Their loss. It was a good speech." Emma sipped her iced tea, remembering how Dylan had tried to corner her afterward, his voice low with manufactured concern about their parents' financial struggles. The way she'd smiled politely and walked away still felt like victory. "Got another letter yesterday," Emma said, watching a robin hop across their lawn. "From Grandma?" "Who else? This one included pictures from Tyler's graduation." Mara set her glass down. "You going to answer?" Emma considered the question. The letters arrived monthly now, sometimes pleading, sometimes accusatory, occasionally attempting genuine reflection. She kept them all in a drawer in her study, a paper trail of her mother's evolving strategies. "Not yet," Emma said finally. "Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation." Mara nodded, wisdom beyond her 18 years in her eyes. "You taught me that." As twilight deepened around them, Emma thought about the mortgage payments she no longer made, the midnight emergency calls she no longer received, the constant drain on her spirit that had finally stopped. The breathing room had allowed her promotion, Mara's scholarship, weekend trips to college campuses, all previously impossible beneath the weight of obligation. "I don't miss them, you know," Mara said quietly. Emma reached across the space between their chairs, squeezing her daughter's hand. "Neither do I." The simple truth hung in the air between them, neither bitter nor triumphant, just free.